Hello, all you extraordinary products of evolutionary marvels. How is everyone doing today? Is everyone having a fantastic Friday? I certainly hope so. It's almost the weekend, people. All you have to do is get through a couple more hours and then you're free, till Monday. Anyway, I hope everyone is having a wonderful day and has plans for the weekend. Even if your plan is, I'm going to sleep in, I'm going to diamond paint, and then I'm going to watch TV, and then I'm going to sleep and do all that again. Whatever it is. All right. So today I'm going to be working on Minnie Mouse in her craft and sewing room. I am doing this painting for Real Men Craft 2's March event. That's Richard over at Real Men Craft 2 for the what started out to be an M&M, and now it's M is for March. So anyway, yeah, I'm gonna do Minnie. Now you're probably thinking, wow, that's a lot of it. Yeah, okay. I have had some pretty bad insomnia for the last couple days. Don't judge me. But I found that this was quite helpful, and you can get a lot done in the wee hours of the morning. It's pretty amazing. Anyway. So, yeah, that's what we're going to do, guys. So I'm going to be working in this section right here. And I have all of my pens, both puttied and waxed with blue wax and my favorite Quake Hold putty. Because I can really move along with that. I don't have to replace it very often. It's all good. So that's what we're gonna be working on now. Oh, and at this little kitty with the little flower cover minder, because I thought it was cute. Kind of went with Minnie. Anyway, so I got this from Mushy. Thank you, Mushy, and my friend Mail. So lots to talk about. Today. So I hope that all of you guys are just really having an extraordinary Friday and are so looking forward to the weekend where you don't have to answer to bosses and all of that kind of stuff, or worry about, what's the next thing you have to do in the next 15 minutes and get finished before you go home. Nope. No more of that till Monday after today. So, okay. Hi again. So let's start with, I'm going to call it sad news. For those of you who may not know, probably by now everyone does. Craftably is closing its doors for good. So that was incredibly sad to find out. Because, they've been around a while. They were a favorite in the diamond painting community. They were actually new to me. I haven't had a chance to try them yet. That was sort of something I had on my list of places to try this year. And I'm really bummed now that I probably am not going to be able to. Kind of hoping that they may have a really major sale happen so that I still can. But, we'll see. It's bad enough. Raven Diamond Art got me again this morning. Did everybody go look at Raven Diamond Art's new releases for this week? Oh my gosh. I wasn't going to get any. I had already talked myself out of it. Not going to get it. But then they had a couple of their new kits that had ABs. And I'm like, oh shoot. Now I got to try it. So they took me for another canvas. I managed to keep it to one. So yeah, congratulate me on that, because there were way more than one I would like to have had, but no, Wendy's wallet is saying, don't you even think about it. So, you know what? I did what I could do. So, anyway, so get over and look at Raven Diamond Art when you have a chance and check out all their new canvases for this week. And then also, give Craftably some love, because that was very sad news, and that was hard on everybody in the community, because a lot of people have gotten a lot of really beautiful and wonderful diamond art canvases from them over over the years. So that was just really a bummer. I mean, we wish them well in whatever endeavors they do from here on out. But, yeah, they're moving on down the road. So that was very sad to hear. I'm going to try not to you to death this time. I don't know what this is about. Anyway, so yeah, that was the news I got this morning. I was listening to the event and Kid Up Wip N Chat that Shay over at Crafting with Shay did and is doing for her Mermaids and Magic event, which I'm also participating in this month. I'm doing that purple dragon and the lady that's standing with him canvas, which is a 40 by 50. So wish me luck, you guys. I am doing this Wip N Chat now because in a rare stroke of luck, I am by myself with the exception of the bark machines. Other than that, I'm here by myself and thought this might be a good time to have a Wip N Chat. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll find out. Okay, so where to begin? Well, so let me tell you a little bit about what's been happening over here. Also, at the end of the Wip N Chat, you guys, I need your help trying to decide on a canvas. I've narrowed it down to 3, but I'm just not sure which one to do for Diamond Painting with Jack's event, which is coming up. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry, Jack. I don't remember which month. She's doing, in November, she's doing the Hello Kitty event, which I already have a canvas for, so that's good. I already purchased in anticipation of such an event. But she's also doing What Was I Thinking? I want to say August, maybe? Anyway, so, which is supposed to be a canvas that you either, you know, you picked it up because it was on sale, or, you know, it looked like a good idea at the time, or maybe you got it as a gift for someone and now you're not friends anymore, whatever the reason. You know, it's what was I thinking? So you're supposed to take a canvas that you probably would not ordinarily be doing because you've learned or discovered things since then, and you're just like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that. And you just left it in your stash. Well, the idea is she wants us to get it done and get it out of our stash. So that was hard for me because most of my stash I really, really like. Oh my gosh. Hold on, need Chihuahua, hold on. Okay, and so, but I managed to narrow it down to 3 canvases that I'm willing to part with. You know, I mean, guys, this is what I have to contend with. Every day. Okay. So, but I cannot decide out of the 3. I keep looking, and then I think I make a decision and I change my mind. Anyway, so we're going to do just a little poll and see what you guys think, and you help me decide which one looks like the best one to do for such an event. And believe me, they all qualify for different reasons. Okay. So what's been happening this week? Okay, this is something that I've only touched on it here because I don't want to, you know, be a big downer and bring everybody down. But there have been some developments that I'm going to tell you about. So I'm going to give you a little background information. Okay, so my best friend has been in the hospital, as I told you last time. But what I didn't tell you is she's been in the hospital since July. We went to Las Vegas in June to celebrate her 55th birthday. We had a great time. We did the Strip. We saw Cirque du Soleil. We went to adult places. And yeah, we had some good times. Okay. On July 5th, she moved down here, and the goal was that she was going to be living with me until first her house sold. She was tasked with selling her childhood home in the Silicon Valley, where we're from, and was expected to make a pretty penny, but the house is old. Her family's lived in it since, oh my God, I don't know, 53 years, I think. Well, her mother passed away at right before New Year's 2022. So December 28th is when she passed. And so that meant my friend had to find the contractors, do all the remodel, set up accounts, get ready to sell it, get ready to do all of the painstaking type work. Okay. In the midst of all of this, she has no family left. She has a brother who is an active heroin addict and has been for a lot of years. They were both living at home with her mother, so that's been challenging. And some might say enabling, but that's a whole nother story. I've been pissed about it for years because, he's almost tolerable when he isn't high, which isn't that often. But the rest of the time he is high, and he's destroyed parts of the house more than once. He's got a terrible mouth on him. He's verbally abusive to my friend and her mother when she was alive. And her mother allowed it and allowed him to continue to stay there with no expectation. Didn't have to work, didn't have to take part in the household chores, didn't have to do anything except sit there and get high whenever he wanted. So hence the reason why I was really pissed. Okay. Anyway, so her mom passes away and she's stuck to deal with the house and the remodel and selling it, and her brother, who was just a fly in the ointment, totally. So she, managed to do it. I tried to help her as best as I could. I helped, I made phone calls for her. I got estimates. I lined things up, just the stuff that you do for the people you love, right? So, and she had to have the remodel done over a couple of times at full charge because he was supposed to go stay with friends while the remodel was happening. And instead of doing that, he would leave for a couple days and then he would come back and he would break into the house. Because the first thing she did was change the locks so that the contractors could get in with a lockbox, but he couldn't get in and create havoc, which would have been great, except that he just broke in, literally broke in. The neighbors called and, called the police and did all this stuff. But okay, this family has kind of a history with the police, and because he was in and out of juvie before he went to, he grew up enough to go to actual prison. And just constantly, and every time her mother took him back. Every time. Now, what was her answer when my friend tried to talk to her mother about it? Well, at least he's not on the street, which is exactly where she needed to put him. But anyway, long story short, those of you that have had the misfortune of having drugs and alcohol affect your family, you know what this is like. It's not, it's the sad thing is it's not unusual. That is really the sad part. Okay. But he said he would be cooperative because he knew he stood, unfortunately, that was another thing. When her father died when we were in 7th grade, her mother put everything in a trust and gave each one of them, a percentage. And yeah, that was the way it was supposed to work. And so yeah, you can, in his mind, all he could think about was, oh my God, the amount of heroin I can purchase. Wow. So he said he would be cooperative. She believed him. He wasn't. She ended up paying for some of the repairs 2 and 3 times. Total nightmare. The real estate agent that was minding the house did have him put in jail for trespassing at least once to get him out of the way as it was nearing the final stages so they could get on with the sale, because everybody is waiting for payment, including the contractors that were redoing the work they just did because of him. So in order to get it finished and sell the place, they needed to go. Now, they did sell it. They made a very nice profit, which isn't surprising. Northern California, especially Silicon Valley area homes. Yeah, it sold for a pretty penny. Okay. So, but she couldn't take being around him anymore, and she didn't want to have to see him or deal with him because of how much grief he was causing her. And she was already grief-stricken because she was trying to mourn her mom's passing and, having to be the only one that was overseeing her care, her final days at the hospital. And she had died unexpectedly. She'd gotten an upper respiratory infection, kind of over the holidays, and just wasn't getting better. Finally, my friend had to make the determination that she needed to call for an ambulance because she felt like, it was getting out of hand where she couldn't help treat her. So she did that, and she went into the hospital and tried to treat her, and they, weren't very successful, and she ended up with pneumonia. Anyway, so she ended up passing. Okay. Now, when all this happened, and there was a lot happening at the same time, and, she called me a bunch of times, Wendy, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. I'm afraid I'm losing her. Now, her mom's 89. It wasn't, it wasn't something that was totally unexpected given her age, except I think when it's your parent, it's always totally unexpected, no matter how much it's coming. I don't think you're ever ready. And she and her brother were ready least of all, because when I say they were an enmeshed family, I mean all the good and bad that comes with that they really were. So she did the best she could. She stayed by her mother's side, did everything she was supposed to do. They had a couple of important conversations when things were happening. So that was important too. And then, she passed away and just was completely lost. I mean, completely lost. And that was really hard. And so now, because we've been best friends since we were 12, which, remember guys, we're talking over 40 years now. And there were years, where we were closer and more in each other's lives than other years, because that's kind of what life does. It takes you apart, brings you together, takes you apart, brings you together. So, but we never lost contact or anything. I mean, we were in contact by phone when we weren't in contact by person. And we were always there if somebody, if one of us needed the other one, that person was there one way or another. So, and so, I've always felt really incredibly lucky to have a friend like that. Some people never have friends like that. So, yeah, so I was I always felt very fortunate that we had one another to talk to. Okay. So, fast forward, she was trying to deal with all the remodel and the real estate people, and dealing with her brother and trying to get him to get the hell out and shut the hell up, and all that kind of stuff. She finally just couldn't take it, so she called me and said, well, it started out, I called her in, I want to say April. And I said, hey, I told her, my husband and I, we want to take you anywhere you want to go for your birthday. Because first of all, 55 is a big deal. It's a double nickel and it's a big one. And so, I said, wherever you want to go, you want to go to the mountains, we will get a cabin in the mountains. You want to go to the beach, we will find a place at the beach. Whatever you want to do, we will do. And I knew she was still grief-stricken, and I knew she was still stressed out, and so I wasn't sure what she was going to say. I thought she'd want to get away from it all. No, she's surprised, and she goes, you know what I want to do? I want to go to Las Vegas. I said, wow, you do? And she's like, yep, I do. I said, okay, then let's plan it. I said, let's take a long weekend and go. I said, why don't you come down, and we will come down like on a Thursday morning, and we'll leave Friday morning and get to Vegas, and then stay the weekend and come home either late Monday or early Tuesday. And she's like, okay, that sounds wonderful. She goes, really, Wendy, thank you. I don't even know what to say. I said, you don't need to say anything, you're my sister, because we always call each other sisters because we were closer than sisters, and I have never had a sister. She had a sister that died in infancy from the exact same congenital anomaly, cardiac issue that my friend had as well. And my friend, was one of the very first pediatric patients on what was then the new bypass unit at Stanford University. She was one of the very first. Now this is 1972. She was 5 years old. She had an anomaly. She had holes in her heart when she was born. And so, they did some treatment initially when she was an infant, and then they told her parents, we're going to have to do some additional surgery as she gets older so that, her heart will continue to support her and she will be able to grow and all of that. So, fortunately, they knew to get her to Stanford, one of the foremost medical clinics, even now. It was then and it is now. And she did phenomenally well and, came out of it great. She had her last, her last surgery when she was 5 and did, amazing. And that was it. And she had a couple of other little, well, not really little, but other anomalies that were not as life-threatening as that one. And I don't know, we may or may not talk about that later, but okay. So, and I'm telling you all of that because it's relevant to what's happening now. Okay, so now one of the things that has been a problem is she's been a diabetic 19 years, so almost 20 years. She has Medicaid, which in our state is called Medi-Cal. She has never been able to get her diabetes under any kind of adequate control. Now, I will tell you that her blood sugar acts like type 1 diabetes. It does weird, inexplainable things, at like 2 a.m. and, 11 o'clock at night. I mean, it has nothing to do with what she eats or when she eats. Anyway, and it does run in her family as well as the cardiac issues. Both of those run in her family. So she wasn't exactly surprised, but it's frustrating to try to explain to the medical community, hey, I'm not ignoring you and I'm not following what you told me to do. It's just not working. Okay. One of the issues that makes me angry right now is she needed to see endocrinology 10 years ago and they wouldn't send her. And I'm very angry because that is a big reason why all that's happening has been happening. Okay, so she stayed with me for a couple weeks. We went down to Vegas, came back. Everybody had a really wonderful time. It was the first time I'd seen her smile since her mom passed. It was good. And my son, my youngest son that lives with us, had never been to Las Vegas, and he was old enough to do all the stuff. So he was excited too because, first time going. So we all had a wonderful time. Okay, we came back. Well, when we came back, she asked me, she took me aside and she said, I can't stand it. I can't stand what my brother is putting me through. I can't stand being around there because I can't be in my house. I'm staying with Merlin. I'm staying with another friend. And I feel like I'm in the way for her. And, I need to be able to talk and have a conversation. And she doesn't want to talk. She wants to come home and rest. after she goes to work, and I need to be somewhere else. And, you know, I know it's asking a lot, and I know it's a big burden, but could I please stay with you until the house sells, because I want to relocate to Southern California anyway. And if I could just stay with you, and as soon as the house sells, then I'll start looking for my forever home. And, you know, because I want to make it close by, because you're the only family I have now. And would it be okay if I stayed in your guest room? And of course I told her, girl, you don't even have to ask. Of course you know it's okay. So down she came. Okay. And that was on July 5th. Her friend that she was living with up in the Bay Area had the week off for the week after 4th of July. So she drove her car down because in April, she had been diagnosed with Charcot foot, CHARCOT. It's a fairly common thing that happens to a lot of diabetics when their blood sugar isn't controlled. And you can look it up, but it's unpleasant. It's not fun. And it becomes a thing where they try to salvage your foot structure so that they don't have to do an amputation. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But the day that she found out, she called me hysterical. My God, I can't believe this has happened. And I'm so upset about it. And, you know, and oh my God, I said, okay, you know what? We can handle this. We're going to get through it. I said, what are they doing? Well, right now they're casting me to try to preserve my own foot structure. Maybe they'll be able to put some mesh in it later. Maybe not, they don't know yet, but you know, that would be the goal, to keep me from having to have it amputated. I said, okay, so what do you have to do? Well, I have to go in for cast changes every 2 weeks. Okay. So I said, well, you need to make sure that you change your Medi-Cal benefits over effective August 1st, because you know, you're going to be in a different county. And if you cross the county line, it's a whole thing when you have Medi-Cal to utilize it, you know, somewhere that's not where you've been utilizing it. Okay. Now, she also, she worked in a urology clinic. She was a surgery scheduler. That's what she did for a living. And when her mother became ill, she tried to quit. They said, oh, no, you can't quit. We need you to be here. So they agreed to let her work from home for a while. She said, okay, I'll stay for a while if I can work from home. However, you know, you need to find somebody for me to train, because I need to figure out some stuff and get on with my life. And it just doesn't include working here. So they said, okay, fine. So all of that was happening to her at the same time. Okay. So she moved down on July 5th. And on July 12th, well, just prior to coming down, she discovered having to have cast changes every 2 weeks at the wound care clinic at the hospital she was being treated at. They discovered that the cast had worn a hole in the bottom of her foot. Okay, so this is bad, because you have to be very careful with a diabetic with their feet, and, you know, because infection is such a problem. And, you know, they gave her things to use to change her wound dressing every day, and how to keep it clean, and special solution for cleaning it, and, you know, make sure that you don't, you know, go barefoot anywhere, and rest it. Well, she wasn't great at the resting it part. She was okay, but it would have been better if she would have stayed off it more. But trying to keep her off of anything is ridiculous, because she's used to taking care of herself and whoever else needs to be taken care of. So she's not the one to sit still. So that was probably the most challenging part for her. So, okay, but she did the best she could. And so they went ahead and continued to do, you know, she continued to take care of it. Meanwhile, it got to the point where she started having pain in it. And so we went to the county hospital, and they took a look at it and said, oh, it doesn't look bad to us. You know, we'll take an x-ray and just make sure. But yeah, we don't think it's infected. Okay, that was on July 12th. Yeah. Okay, and they told her, no, it's not infected. Just be sure to continue to take care of it, like the wound care people said. And, the pain you're feeling, it's probably just, having an open wound pain and having to continue to be casted. Yeah, it's hard. All of this stuff. Okay, that was July 12th. July 26th was her first admission into the hospital. I had to call her. She called me. I was on my way home from picking up her prescriptions and some other stuff. I was running errands. And she called me and she said, are you home? And I said, not yet. I'm on my way. And she said, when you get here, will you please call 911? I said, what's the matter? And she said, I can't take this pain anymore. I can't. I can't get relief from it no matter what I do. Something isn't right. I said, okay. I said, I'm 3 minutes out from the house and I'll call as soon as I get there. So got home and, immediately went in to check on her. Didn't unload the car or anything. I just immediately went in to, check on her, make sure she still wanted me to do that. And I wanted to look at her face and, really see how she's doing. Well, as soon as I saw her, I knew how bad the pain was. I said, okay, I'm going to call 911 right now. Do you need anything, while I'm doing that? She said, no, I can't, Wendy, I just can't take it. I said, okay, I'm calling right now. So I called them, and we live, like 3 minutes from our local paramedic and fire station. So they were here like lickety split. And they came in and looked at her and asked what was going on. And she tried to explain the best she could. And they looked at her foot and they said, okay, well, I think you're coming with us. We need to, take you to the hospital to be evaluated. She said, okay. I got her stuff ready for her. So I wanted to make sure she had her purse with all of her, insurance cards and everything, and gave her phone and her charging cord, all the stuff you do. And so she went, and next thing I know, the nurse calls me at our local hospital here in our little town and says that they're sending her to the next town over, which is same umbrella company, but much bigger, has much more ability to treat and all that stuff. Okay. Yeah, they said, yeah, she definitely does have an infection. And I told them what we had just been told less than 2 weeks before. And they said, well, either something was missed or it's just gotten that bad since then. There just isn't necessarily a way to know that. But yeah, it's certainly there now. So yeah, we're sending her down there. Okay. So I called down there to find out what room she was going into. Then I find out they're taking her to intensive care. I'm like, what on earth? Come to find out, she had gotten sepsis from this infection from the open wound and all of that. And the reason she couldn't control the pain was because she was septic. And there's not enough ibuprofen on the planet to do anything about that. Okay. Now, remember, her benefits aren't supposed to start till the 1st of August. And then it was bad because they didn't give her any kind of a, by the way, we're working on it and your benefits will be effective, So I told her to call as soon as she got down here, and they had screwed it up. They had sent her benefits to LA County instead of the county we live in. So that would have delayed her again. And it did. It delayed a couple extra weeks. Okay. All of that was still going on. Okay. So, I said, please have her call me. I talked to the nurse at the intensive care unit. I said, please have her call me. She goes, okay, I'll tell her. I said, okay, well, then she never did. So the next morning I called, because this was about, probably 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I called the next day when I didn't hear from her, and I said, hey, I'm trying to check on her. I called her cell phone and she didn't answer it. So I said, I'm trying to check on her. And they said, is this Wendy Porter? And I said, yeah. And they said, she said that you're supposed to be making medical decisions if she's not able. And I said, oh, okay. They said, yeah, she said you're her sister. I said, okay, close enough. And so they said, yeah, she's she's not coherent right now. She's unconscious. I said, what? I mean, she was talking yesterday. What do you mean she's unconscious? Yeah, apparently the sepsis has progressed to a level that she's not conscious. She's stable. You know, we're watching her. We're doing, you know, blood gases. We're doing all this. Okay. Well, they were checking her constantly because they didn't know for sure what kind of antibiotic they needed. So they had infectious disease come in and do a consultation. I mean, you name it, and it happened. Okay. So she managed to survive there and got what they felt was well enough to go to skilled nursing, which I did not agree with. And I told her that I didn't think that was a good idea and that she should stay in the hospital or she should come home and try to have home health because, you know, we do not have anything close to any level of skilled nursing around here that's appropriate. We call it unskilled nursing because it's really just that bad. Okay, so they sent her to the worst facility I've ever seen, and she contracted COVID right after she got there. So then she spent 10 days in isolation with a fellow patient who was assaultive and was threatening bodily harm to her and to the other patient. There were 3 other people that came down with it the day after she did. Come to find out, apparently a staff person had it and nobody knew it, including the staff person. So that person ended up spreading it right along. So yeah, it was ugly, you guys. I can't even tell you. So needless to say, she was supposed to be going there for physical therapy and to get a little bit stronger. And then they decided, they put in a PICC line into her upper arm and said, yeah, she's going to need, you know, at least 2 weeks of IV antibiotics. So she was supposed to have that too. Okay, well, they managed to do the antibiotics and nothing else. And they didn't do anything about the assaultive dementia person that they put in the room. So that was a problem. You know, we tried to address that and forget it. There's no addressing it. I mean, they could not have cared less. So that was a whole nother problem. And I couldn't see her because she was in isolation for 10 days because of the COVID. So as soon as she was out of isolation, and I knew she was out, so I called her and I said, hey, what's going on? Left a message and I said, you know, because she didn't answer, I said, you need to call me as soon as you get this. I need to know what's going on. I'm coming to visit. I want to know, you know, what's the plan? What are they doing? What are they not doing? She never called me. And I had some stuff I had to get done for my son. And we were in the midst of chaos with some of his vendors. We're in the chaos again for a different reason with the vendors. That's another thing that's been happening. Talk about that later. So when she didn't call me for 24 hours, I called the following morning and I said, I need to speak to the charge nurse. And I said, why isn't she answering her phone? Oh, well, last time I checked her, I mean, she's asleep. And I said, for a full day? I said, did you take her blood sugar? Nope, they hadn't taken her blood sugar. I said, I'll wait while you do that. So sure enough, she gets down there. Her blood sugar was 48, you guys. They were going to let her just slip into a diabetic coma and die. Nobody was paying attention. Nobody did anything. They were just glad she was asleep and out of their hair. They didn't have to do anything. It was one less patient to worry about. I was livid. So the nurse woke her up and then got real nervous and started doing stuff really fast, trying to get glucose in her and all this other crap, and her antibiotics and all of that. And on the phone, they handed her the phone. I said, what's going on? And she's like, Wendy, something's wrong. I don't know what it is, but something is wrong. I said, well, your blood sugar is extremely low. She goes, it's not that, it's something else. I don't know what, but something is not right. I said, okay, you know what? Then I said, I'm going to hang up. I want you to call 911 and have them come out. And because I knew if she called 911, they have to go. So I hung up with her and I said, you call me and let me know what happens. Okay. She calls them. Paramedics come out. They evaluate her. They see what's going on. The nurse said, did you call them? And she was really angry about it. So the paramedic shut the door in her face, which I thought, yeah, that works. And took, her vitals and everything. And they said, tell us what's happening. And so she explained it. And they evaluated her and they said, yeah, you're coming with us. So then she calls me from the back of the ambulance, letting me know, hey, they're taking me to the hospital again. I said, okay, hang on to your stuff and I'll meet you down there. So my husband and I pile into the car. I called my son's staff person. I said, please stay until we get back. I will pay you overtime, whatever it takes. We go running down there. The nurse comes out and informs us. Now, we haven't seen anybody yet, but she comes out and informs us, because we were in the waiting room, that they're going to be shipping her back to the hospital. She just left 10 days ago because she tested positive for COVID. I said, well, I'm not surprised. She's had it for 10 days. And they go, oh, she's already had it? I said, yeah, she was in isolation for 10. She just got out after the 10 days. Oh, let me tell the doctor. So they told the doctor. Doctor still decided to send her back down to the hospital. Okay, so we get down to the hospital. They act like this is new information. They had no idea and they'd never seen her before. I found out later it's because they rotate them weekly. So it's not uncommon. You could be in the hospital, once a week for a month and never see the same staff or team in the whole place because they rotate them. And by the time you come back, they're gone. They're on to the next thing. So, but there she goes back into intensive care. And she was there, I think, 2 days. Then they took her down to what they call, I think they call it intermediate care, which is a step down. You still need acute care, but you're a step down from intensive care. So instead of having a 2-to-1 patient-nurse ratio, it's a 3-to-1. So she went in there. I went in to talk to her. Well, first of all, she was delirious again when she got to the first hospital that sent her down to the one she had just left. And they said, yeah, she said that, her mom is her medical decision maker. I said, well, that's going to be a good trick since she died almost a year ago. And they were like, oh, okay. So they said, so you're the one we talked to? I said, yeah, apparently, because, again, she has some family members on the East Coast that she hasn't seen since she was a kid. So, I don't know, a couple of decades, maybe a little more. So it was, kind of a non-issue. So they said, okay, well, here's the room she's in. She's in intermediate care. I said, fine. So I go in to see her and I said, okay, Lisa, this can't continue. Cannot continue. So we talked about it and we discussed it. I said, you need to stay in the hospital as long as you can. And when you are ready to go, then tell them you want to go home with home health and you're done with nursing, skilled nursing, because we did not want a repeat of what happened the last time, God knows. So the doctor tried to talk her out of it. She said, no, I'm not interested. I don't want to, I don't want to do that anymore. Okay. Well, okay, so she came back here. She had home health. My husband and I were taking care of her. But the problem is, because she had not been out of the facility long enough to establish care with a new primary care doctor, nobody was bound and determined to not give her any kind of an opiate because there's no oversight, right? So what we had for pain relief, your Tylenol, ibuprofen mixes, and then she also had gabapentin, which is also called Neurontin, which she had previously to moving down here. Okay. When it got to the point where none of that was enough to handle her pain, I'm like, here we go again. We went to the emergency room she tried to get some medication there. They gave her some, but they only gave her like, 2 days worth of doses because, again, no oversight, no primary care doctor. So then she was okay for a couple of days, but then she kept complaining about this pain, that was kind of in her hip and back. And the thing was, she couldn't determine, and neither could we, where or what kind of pain, this was coming from. So it was, when you say back and hip pain, okay, well, she's in her 50s. It's not uncommon for 50-year-olds to have back and hip pain. So I was trying to say to her, well, okay, Lisa, is it like, is it sharp? Is it dull? Is it arthritis? Is it, do you feel like it's a muscle strain? Like what kind of a pain is it? And she just couldn't describe it. And I thought, this is weird. Okay. Fast forward a couple of days. Middle of the night, I hear her yelling for help. I go in. She's delirious. And I'm like, ugh, here we go again. I call the ambulance. They come out. They evaluate her. They take her in again, back to the same hospital that she has constantly been in. And again, they're still, seeing, even though she's still on antibiotics from the first time around, right? Intravenous. Okay, she's in the hospital another week while they try to get it under control. And they convinced her this time to go back to skilled nursing. And I said, she goes, I know, but we're going to go to a different one. I said, yes, but it's not going to make any difference. None of them are worth their salt. And she's like, well, she goes, I can't keep having you guys take care of me. And, it's like, there's no way, and I'm going to need it, long term. And yeah, okay, I don't like it, but, it's your life. You do what you feel is the best thing to do. So she goes into skilled nursing, where most of the people in there are dementia patients and people that are never leaving, and not exactly rehab. It's like she's supposed to be and all this. Okay. So she makes some progress, but not very much. And these people are too much. They walk in, hi, I'm here for your physical therapy. She goes, no, I'm not up to it today. And they go, okay, maybe tomorrow. And they leave, and they never address, never even ask her, well, why don't you want to do it? Like, what's happening? Is this different from yesterday? Has the doctor come in? The only time you see a doctor is when you first get to the facility, and then they send either a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant to kind of oversee. And even that's only weekly, right? Other than that, you see a nurse, and nursing students do all the work. Yeah. Can you see why this is a bad idea for her situation? Okay. So I was going to see her weekly because I wasn't able to go more often than that. I mean, not just because it's in the next town over. That wasn't it. The problem was, there's a lot happening in this household, and the fact that two of us have disabilities, one of us is elderly. You guys know about the drama with my leaking roof. All of this was happening. My son has developmental delays, so that was a whole nother thing with that agency. Like, it was not time permitting, right? So I thought, okay, but I'm going to put her on the schedule. We're going to go down there at least weekly. And then I talked to her over the phone 2 or 3 times a week just to kind of say, hey, how are things going? How are you feeling? What's new? So she was there 6 weeks, y'all. 6 weeks. She did not get out until the 28th of October. And what had happened was she called me on Friday, the Friday before, and said, they've given me my walking papers. And I said, what does that mean? And she said, they're sending me home. They said, I've been here long enough, and it's time for me to go. I said, do you feel up to going? She goes, no, not really, but I can't really argue the point. I don't even know what to say. I said, well, I think you should start with saying, I don't feel well enough to go home. And I said, are you still eligible for home health? I know you've been in skilled nursing, but if you're going home and you're still on IV antibiotics and you still need wound care and dressing changes on your foot, are you going to be able to have home health? She goes, I don't know. I'll find out. I said, okay, so she called me and she was a little bit happier. Yes, I found out I can actually have home health. I said, great, that will be helpful. And then we need to get you to a doctor. She goes, yes. They made me a follow-up appointment. Now, remember, she was getting ready to leave October 28th. Follow-up appointment was November 7th. Okay. She comes home. We go pick her up on the 28th and all her stuff. We bring her home. I give her the third degree about who's the doctor you're going to be seeing, and do they understand that you're, going to be establishing care long-term, and, all the stuff I figured I needed to know in case, anything weird happened. Okay, in the meantime, at this same time, the hospice workers that were working with my dad called and said, okay, we feel that he's not okay to be home alone on the couple of days a week that we're not coming. And I said, we had looked and looked and looked and tried to find additional help. And we had a couple of, family friends that were going, a couple hours a week to check on him. But I said, we were not able to find any other kinds of nursing care for him to be there. And they said, well, we don't feel like, this is an acceptable situation any longer. And if you don't put him in skilled nursing, then we will have to pull off the case. I said, it's not like we can just assign him to skilled nursing. I said, if you guys can find one and convince him to go, super. So they ultimately did. And so we had just put him into the skilled nursing facility, which was awful to have to do. Awful for him, awful for us, awful to witness. It was awful. So in the midst of all of that and, going on and us realizing that he's probably not going to be coming back home, which means we're going to have to do something about getting stuff out of there because it's a reverse mortgage. And we knew that the bank would be, looking for it as soon as, if he passed away within days, they would probably, be looking at what's going to happen to this property. So, long story short, a lot of things had happened, and I was at wit's end. And so I finally convinced my older sons. I said, listen, I need your help. We got to clear out Grandpa's house, and I need you. Because my husband and I have disabilities, not like we can be lifting stuff or, doing any of that. And so, to their credit, because they were raised right, both of them dropped everything and came out to help. And I am eternally grateful to their little selves. Bless their little hearts. So they came out November 1st. On November 3rd, we all hear a thump. We go in, and she's been in bed this whole time. We go in there. She's on the floor, delirious. I'm like, you have got to be kidding. And so once again, I'm calling an ambulance, and we live in a small town. And so we only have one station assigned up here. So every time they come out, it's the same people. Okay. Same group, same paramedics, same everything. They go, we've been out here a lot. I said, you sure have. And they said, does she have a caseworker? Like, is anybody helping her? I said, no, because she's not out of the hospital long enough. She's supposed to have a follow-up. November 7th, it's November 3rd, and you're taking her, and she's going to miss it again, and that's why she doesn't have primary care. Okay, so this time, they went in, they found out that the sepsis and the osteomyelitis that she had in her foot had gone all the way up her leg, into her back, and she had a huge abscess at the base of her spine, which was what was causing the sepsis to keep continuing and coming back. And it was traveling back to the same hospital again. Now, at this point, she's already been in the hospital 3 times and skilled nursing technically twice. Okay. She gets into this hospital. I said, you know what? Every time you guys release her, she's just getting worse, 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 worse. And so I said, we need to do something different. And if that means that I have to tell you she's homeless, then that's what it means, because I'm not taking her back for this to happen yet again. Well, this time they, and I had to keep giving them permission. So I kept giving them permission, and they had to do an MRI. They wanted to check, see how advanced it was. Then they needed permission to remove the abscess, which I gave them. But at the same time, it had spread so far that it was in her heart valves. Now, remember, she'd had heart surgery as a kid, so this terrified me because I didn't know what condition any of that was in, and it was 50 years old at this point, so that was a big concern. And I started saying then, I said, she needs to be out of here, and she needs to go to a tertiary hospital, and I don't care what it takes, she needs to go. Well, they argued, and her insurance company argued, and everybody argued. Meanwhile, she's unconscious. Okay, they do a test. They find out that her heart valves were in fact affected by the sepsis, had to be replaced. They were going to replace two, the tricuspid valve in her heart and also her aortic valve. That also terrified me because I'm like, oh my God. And the sepsis was still raging. And so I said, you need to get her out of here while she can still make the trip. Because I said, I don't think we have that long. And as it was, I said, why is she unconscious? They couldn't tell me. They didn't know. But they were checking her reflexes and everything. And then they found out that she had a weakness on the right side. And, had she ever had that before? I said, no, and you better find out why. Come to find out, while she was under their care, she had a stroke. But it was also on the right side, so that didn't explain why she had a right side weakness. It should have been on the left side if the stroke was to blame. But they said, it was a CVA, and that they expected her to fully recover, but they didn't know for sure then why she had the weakness. And she was showing signs of encephalopathy, so that the sepsis was in her brain. I said, how much longer are you going to dilly-dally? Because I'll tell you right now, if she dies, we are going to have quite a conversation, and you are not going to like it. So finally, this took me 3 weeks to accomplish, you guys. They finally sent her the night before Thanksgiving. In the dead of night, 3:30 in the morning, they finally sent her to Keck School of Medicine at University of Southern California. I was so amazed that they took her because it's a private school and there's a line of people always trying to get in. So I was really surprised. But thank God they did. They tried UCLA. UCLA was over full. Apparently they had had some kind of major traffic accident and they were way full of patients that needed all kinds of extensive care, so they couldn't take her. They tried Cedars-Sinai. They weren't sure it would be appropriate. They wanted time to think about it, and we ended up not having time, and thank God USC said, yeah, we'll take her. I will be eternally grateful that they did that. Meanwhile, she gets down there in the dead of night, and I get a call at like 5 a.m. from her new intensive care unit nurse wanting to know what's gone on. And I was like, my God, how much time do you have? Because remember, this is the end of November. We've been at this since July, okay? And so I said, in the 4 months that this has been ongoing, she has had all kinds of hospitalizations. She's been to skilled nursing twice. The hospital that brought her to you almost killed her. It's just been one thing after another. I said, please help her. And they said, here's the thing. We've evaluated her. Yes, we need to replace the valve because she will not get over the sepsis completely until that valve is replaced because it's a source where the bacteria can just keep breeding. The problem is if we do it too early and we don't have the sepsis under control, then it will just decay the new valve and she'll be right back in the same situation. And I was just like, oh my God. So it was, guys, it was an hour by hour for the longest time. And they finally, it took almost a week, and she was on the verge of heart failure the whole time. So it's like, We have to control it enough to do the surgery, but we got to get the surgery done because if we don't, she's in danger of heart failure. Like it was literally, you know, hourly, like what's happening now, you know, kind of a thing. And I was really scared because I didn't know she was going to make it out of there ever, or she was going to pass. Like I didn't know. And again, nobody to talk to about it because all of her relatives are on the East Coast. I don't know any of them personally. I didn't have any of their phone numbers. I'm talking to her friend from Northern California. So the two of us are trying to figure out what to do because again, she told them that I was supposed to make the decision. I'm like, oh my God. And I really didn't want to. And I didn't know if it was the right thing to do. Yes, I knew her history, but that didn't help me because I'm not a doctor. So yeah, this went on and on, you guys. They finally figured they had the sepsis under control enough. They could replace the valve. They ended up not having to replace the aortic valve. They just cleaned it up really well, and then they just replaced the tricuspid and kept the intravenous antibiotics going and saved her. But they were having trouble controlling, you know, her pulmonary function because it kept diving. So they were the ones who first put in the tracheostomy tube. They said, but yeah, you know, we have a valve that we can put it in and she can talk and swallow and all this. And we're going to wean her off of it as soon as we can, but we need to be able to, you know, keep her pulmonary system and her respiratory system stable. So that's why we're doing this now, but we don't anticipate it to be more than 4 or 5 days. Okay. So, and they had physical therapy coming in, you know, a couple times a day, and she was recovering. She was actually recovering. She called me. We talked about it, you know, every couple of days. And she told me that how anxious she was to get off of the vent so that she didn't have to keep, you know, having to be hooked up to it all the time and not be able to speak and all of this. Great. Wonderful. Then they started telling me, you know, they were getting ready to move her. And where were they supposed to move her? I said, wait a minute, why are you moving her? And they said, you know, that they were being given grief by the insurance company, meaning Medi-Cal was tired of paying them. Not only were they out of the county, but they were expensive. And so they said, you need to get her moved. Well, they wanted her to come back to Ventura County. Well, the thing is, they said she needed subacute care. And I said, we don't have any subacute agencies. And they're like, you don't? I said, no, we really don't. We only have hospitals for acute care and skilled nursing for rehabilitation, but we do not have subacute. And I said, and neither does Santa Barbara, because I had already asked them to check to try to get her back to this side of the woods so that we could keep an eye on her and participate in her recovery and make sure everything was okay, because we could not get to her while she was in LA County. There was no way. So, you know, I already had asked them to look. They had already looked, and I knew, because their social worker had already called me and we had talked about it, that there was no facility like that in either our county or Santa Barbara County. So they're like, oh, well, I guess we're going to have to send her somewhere, you know, here in LA County. And I said, well, for how long are we talking about? You know, because I'm thinking, I said, is this because she has Medi-Cal? And I said, if she had Blue Cross, could she have stayed? And they said, oh yeah, we would prefer that she stay. But we're limited by what we can do based on her insurance. Now, why this isn't considered unethical, I don't know. Sure should be. So they sent her to the place that she's in now, back in the middle of January. Now, let's keep in mind it's March 1st. Okay, guys, so I gave you that background to tell you this. So today, the sheriff's department from our county comes to my door. And I found this interesting. Now, I do not think that she should be, they put her back on the trach even though she'd been weaned off of it. And they said she arrived in respiratory distress. Keck says, no, she most certainly did not. Somebody gave her Norco, sent her into respiratory distress. And so at this hospital she's in now, they just hooked her up to the vent after she'd already been weaned off of it. When she woke up, she cried about it because it took a lot for her to get off that vent, and now here she was, and she knew she would have to do it all again. Okay, but at that time, she still had the valve in there, so she called me after, well, I didn't hear from her, and so when they moved her, but it was also a weekend. So I called, they moved her a Friday night. I called Saturday night to check on her. I said, give her the phone. And so she then proceeds to tell me that she woke up with her hands tied down to the bed, back on a vent, unable to even call the nurse because she doesn't have a call light or a call button, which again should be illegal. And she was totally distraught, and I lost my mind. I called everybody at that hospital. I said, you get that off of her right now, and you stop restraining her. Well, we don't want her to pull out, her trach tube because she could do real damage. And I said, why is she pulling on it? She knows what it's for. Well, because, it's uncomfortable, and she's kind of, not really with it a lot of the times. Why isn't she with it? Well, it's probably a combination of being so sick and, and having, her pain medicine on board. She's kind of not always, really with it. And I said, then dial it back because I can't have her not with it. And she's done nothing but get worse ever since. And now they've got her on an NG tube. So they got a tube through her nose into her stomach. They're feeding her through. They want to do surgery to give her a G-tube into her stomach so they could clear it out of her nose in hopes that she could breathe better and maybe wean off, because the doctor says every time he gets close to getting her to the point where she's almost on room air, her body floods with CO2 and he has to crank it back up and it has to start from scratch. So it's all been terrible. So, okay. So I can't talk to her. I can't call her. She asked me to bring her phone. I brought her phone the one time I was able to go, which was about a week after she'd been there. And it took, it took moving a mountain to be able to do it. You guys just have no idea the coordination that has to happen and the reliance on other people, which I do not like to do. But I have to do it in order to get everything coordinated so that my son has coverage and we can go where we have to go, and we're not going to die in LA traffic, which is easy to do. Let me just say that. So, yeah, it was an endless of everything had to work out, and not something that we can repeat. So, I've been trying to, call. Well, of course, when they tie you to the bed and they take out your valve so you can't speak, all you can do is mouth words. You can't use a phone, right? So I have to call the nurse's station. Okay, that has not proven to be a very good source of what's going on. So I've been trying to get Adult Protective Services to go out. They told me that they don't go out to facilities. They only go out to residences. I said, then who does go out to facilities? Oh, well, let me see. I'm not sure. Hold on. Let me check with my supervisor. She comes back. She sends me 5 different phone numbers, 2 of which said, we don't know what you're talking about. No, we don't do that. And I'm sorry, but we don't know who to tell you to call because we don't know who does that. And the other 3, despite repeated messages, won't call me back. So, yep, that's been a level of frustrating. Oh, you guys just don't know, because I really believe that they are not doing right by her. And obviously there's not enough oversight to make sure they do what they're supposed to do. So they, I called the state level. Any place that said they do patient advocacy, I called. They're all a bunch of lying people. Some of them, the ones that say they're patient advocates, they're not. What they do is they call, if your insurance company says you can't have a procedure done, they call and convince them to do the procedure, but they don't have any direct, correlation or contact with the patient. I called, I explained the situation. I said, who does? Well, they said, well, have you tried Adult Protective Services? Yeah, I have. And I've tried the elder abuse people, and I've tried everyone you can think of in my county and the county she's currently in. I can't get anybody to put eyes on her. I'm worried that she's being mistreated in this facility. I have not been able to get anyone to go out. Okay, fast forward. So today, I get the county sheriff come to my door telling me that her family members on the East Coast called to report her missing. Can you guys believe it? I said, really? I said, well, she's not missing and she hasn't been. And where the hell have they been for the last 8 months? They're only worried about her now. Really? In the midst of all of that, they contacted the heroin addict brother and wanted to know why he wasn't aware of what's going on. Well, because he didn't care. He couldn't even bother to, when he was contacted, because the friend of hers that I've been talking with in Silicon Valley tried to reach him through Facebook, because that's the only place that anybody ever saw him post anything. So that's, we knew he was alive only because he was posting. So she kept leaving messages, your sister is really having a terrible time. It's life and death. You need to get in touch. Nothing. Nope, no comment. Couldn't have cared less. But now, because her family members have been calling him, now he thinks there's a possibility that her share of the money for the house might be coming to him. So, yeah, supposedly he's going to be on his way down here. Yeah, that'll be interesting. Hopefully he'll end up in jail and out of everyone's hair. But anyway, but the other problem is the family members, because she told them that I was her sister. So I just didn't argue, because she was in process of trying to get power of attorney handed over to me when she ended up back in the hospital. So she filled out the paperwork, but she never had a chance to get the signature line and the notary, the notarized seal put on there so that, everything would be nice and tidy and in a big bow. And so that's been challenging for me, because everything everybody always says, is, well, do you have paperwork stating that you're allowed to speak on her behalf? And then I have to say, well, no, because she never had a chance to complete it, because she ends up back in the hospital before she has a chance to get it notarized. But I'm the only one available that she has. So we can spend the time arguing and playing the court game, or you can accept her decision to name me and we can move on. So not because I'm enjoying it, guys. I hate every minute of it. And I really want her to make her own decisions. But she can't do that if she's out of her head, because she's either over sedation, or maybe the sepsis is back. Maybe she's had another stroke. I don't know. Nobody looked. They did a CT scan of her chest to figure out what's happening with her respiratory system, since they are having trouble weaning her off the vent. But nobody's done any of her head. So we don't know what's going on. Even though I've been telling them repeatedly, look, I know that you've never seen her before, but I'm telling you, she's not in her right mind. She's repeating herself. She's not making sense. She keeps asking how her mother is, and she knows her mother has passed. So we need to find out what's going on so that she can be making some decisions about her care, with understanding of her circumstance. And they keep saying, well, she's answering us fine. Yeah, we don't think there's a problem. I see. So guys, let me tell you what, you should have seen the look on the sheriff's face when they came over to my house today, and I said, thank God you're finally here. And they went, I'm sorry, what? And I said, okay, she's not missing, and I can tell you right exactly where she is. But I said, none of her family members have cared for the last 8 months. So if you're going to tell them where she is, then I'm not going to tell you, because number one, neither one of us can confirm it's really a family member calling. Number two, if it's the heroin addict, he definitely doesn't need to know where she is, because he will do nothing but cause grief to everyone around. So I said, she's in a hospital in Los Angeles County, where she has been since the middle of January. Before that, she was at Keck having open heart surgery and a valve replacement. Which, if any of them had bothered to check or to call me, since this is where her mail comes, I would have told them that. But I said, nobody's even bothered to try to contact me. Now, it's possible that she didn't give them my number because I don't have any of theirs either. So there you go. Yeah, it's an interesting family dynamic. But yeah, imagine my surprise when all this time and all this drama that's been going on since July, it ends up with the sheriff coming to my door. But I said, I hope you do put eyes on her because I think she's being mistreated and I couldn't even get Adult Protective Services to go out there. I filed a grievance with her insurance company and they threw it in the trash and never even investigated it. So yeah, you need to go check because I don't know if she's safe. That's a good question. Please go and look. So they're going to have to show up unexpectedly to the hospital. So yeah, that's what's been going on today, you guys. So stay tuned for that because we don't know what's coming. Anyway, so I know I've kept you guys quite a while, but all of that's been happening, which is why sometimes I sound like a space cadet when I'm on a video. It's not because I'm a space cadet, it's because all of this stuff is happening. Meanwhile, my son's service coordinator at Regional Center, who is the agency in California that oversees services for the developmentally disabled people, has vanished. He's supposed to have, his birthday is Sunday. He's supposed to have had an annual meeting. It hasn't even been scheduled or talked about because I haven't heard from her since the middle of December. So, and I have vendors calling me because their authorizations have expired for providing his staff. So, and they don't work for free. So all of this has been going on, guys. So yeah, that's all the excitement that's been around here, which is why sometimes I seem scatterbrained because everything that's in my head never leaves because I never know when I'm going to get called or I'm going to get a piece of mail or, you know, something's going to happen where I need to pull it to the forefront immediately. So I can't ever let it fully go to the back. Do you know what I mean? So that's why sometimes it's a little strange. So yeah, that's all the interesting part that's been happening around here for the longest time. So what'll happen is, as soon as the family members find out, and I'm sure they could track it down. I don't think it'll be that hard because they actually are family members, even though they're distant family members and haven't seen her for 20 years. You know, they've reconnected enough to be flies in the ointment because when her mother passed, they were talking to her about, you know, the funeral and how are you doing and is everything okay? So once they say, well, we've been talking to her sister because that's what she told them I was, and I just didn't argue, that'll be the last time they'll probably talk to me, and I probably won't get any updates because they're going to say, well, she doesn't have a sister. And so, yeah, I don't know what's going to come of that, but, you know, I just hope that maybe if enough people get involved, maybe somebody will go out and check on her and make sure she's okay because I haven't been able to get anyone out there. But yeah, it's going to get uglier before it gets better. So I don't know, cross your fingers everybody because this is going to be quite the thing to see how this all pans out. But maybe with enough heat on the hospital, they will actually do something and figure out what's happening with her and, you know, try to do something better. And if nothing else, maybe they won't be allowed to continue to restrain her. I'm so livid about that. I mean, you can't even do that with psych patients in the state of California without 24-hour monitoring and, you know, serious defined written criteria. And they've been doing that to her for 6 weeks. Under the guise of, well, we don't want her to pull the tube out. Really? That's just your plan to keep her locked up like that forever? Or just until her benefits run out? Which is it? So, And I mean, the social workers are nasty. And I mean, guys, I've had my fill of social workers. I've adopted children. I have been a CASA, a court-appointed special advocate for my county, which is where you speak on behalf of foster children. And they all have social workers. So I've had my fill of social workers. And while I think it's true that they're not all divided equal, okay, these are the worst I have ever seen anywhere for any reason. And I don't know to what we owe that little tidbit of knowledge, but it's definitely the case. And they've done exactly nothing also. Literally nothing. So I'm hoping there will be a shakeup and maybe something will actually get accomplished. And if nothing else, maybe they will have to untie her, at least for part of the day, so she can, you know, use her phone. And they had this coming because the whole reason that her family on the East Coast even bothered to get involved at all is because she wasn't returning their calls. And they couldn't reach her brother either. Big surprise there. So because of those things combined, they were like, wait a minute, something's not right. And so they finally called to try to figure out what had gone on. And so when they called, you know, her friend that I've been working with that's, you know, up in the Silicon Valley, she called and said, what should I say? And I said, tell them to call me. You know, where the hell have they been? I'm glad they're finally around. Tell them to call me. Give them my number. Let them know that she's not missing, that she's in a hospital in LA, and why, and what we've been trying to do to help her. And they are more than welcome to lend a hand. So I'm hoping that that will end up, you know, being a thing at some point, because I had none of their numbers. I didn't know who to call or what to do, because that's not something she discusses normally, because she knows she hasn't seen any of them in a couple of decades. When her mother passed and all the stuff had to happen with her house and the funeral arrangements, and her brother was being a jackass and doing all this other stuff, none of them did anything except say, oh, I'm so sorry. I mean, that's the extent of it, right? I'm so sorry. But they're related and I'm not. So there you go. I've only been her best friend for 40 plus years. So yeah, that's all going on, you guys. And how was your Friday? That's what I want to know. What are you guys up to? You know, do you have plans over the weekend? What's going on? That's all that's been happening around here, which has, you know, been more than enough. And again, I don't know what's going to come of it. I'm expecting interesting things. So we will see how that pans out, because, I have a lot to say. So yeah, it'll be interesting when that time comes. So now that I've kept you guys way too long with all of that, I do need your help again with trying to figure out which of these canvases to do for the What Was I Thinking event that's coming up later in the year. So here's the first one. And again, it's so pixelated, you guys, and I know it's pixelated, and I probably should have just thrown it away, but because I don't know if drills can save it or not. But let me pull you out just a little bit. But it would be a cool canvas if it'll work out. I just won't know if it's going to do any good until I'm probably halfway or better through it. But this is a dragon, and this is a unicorn, and he's supposed to be like the guardian. And so, but you can see how badly it's pixelated, and how some of it you can make out and some of it you just really can't. So that's why it's in the What Was I Thinking stack. Who knows? Anyway, so the dragon one. Okay, the next one is also a dragon. Now, the reason this one is in the Oh My God stack is because I don't like a dark canvas, and you can see how dark it is. Now, I didn't realize from the picture where I ordered it, which was, I don't even remember which budget-friendly company. I was focusing on what the dragon looked like. It didn't even dawn on me how dark the background was. And so, but as you can see, it really, really is. Now, it's not just all the same color. You'd think it's all 310. It's not. There's other colors in there. You know, there's some 939s and some 413s and, you know, some other colors that make up the background. So it's not just pure black, but it's all fairly dark. So that's why this is in the what was I thinking. I mean, this part, you know, you can see it's got some color. It's got some white. But even the rest of the dragon's body is dark. I mean, like, ugh. But, I mean, it's not pixelated. I'm sure I could do it and it will come out. I just don't know if it's worth doing because this is usually makes me miserable to have such a dark canvas. So that's why it's in the what was I thinking stack. And then the final option was one that I originally got for someone to do for a specific reason. That reason and that person have come and gone and it's no longer an issue. So that's why it's in the what the heck was I thinking. But you see how cute this is? It says, I refuse to sink. Yeah, I'll move you up just a little bit more. Almost did this one for the Mermaids in Magic because she's actually a mermaid. This is her tail. And I liked it. If you knew the person I was going to do it for, you would understand why this is funny and totally appropriate. But anyway, that didn't pan out. And so, but the picture, I liked it. It reminds me of Ophelia. If you've ever seen that print. And so I thought, oh, this will be great. They even did a movie called Reviving Ophelia where there was a picture in the movie that, you know, replicated this that somebody was taking. But anyway, that's what I was thinking when I when I got it. And I liked I refused to sink because it was for somebody who was having a real struggle in their life. So anyway, I was going to do this for them. So those are the three possibilities. The dragon and the unicorn that's pixelated, the dragon with the dark background, or this one. And I just can't decide which one to do, you guys. So help me. Let me know which one you think I should do. Again, there's the mermaid, there's the dark dragon, and the pixelated dragon and unicorn. So, all right, guys, thanks for hanging out today. Please have a wonderful, wonderful weekend and get some rest. Do something nice for yourself because, you know, you absolutely 100% deserve it. And, yep, have a very, very, very restful, relaxed, happy weekend. Do something fun, and we'll see you in the next one. And remember, always be a dragon. Spread your wings. Protect those you love. Have fiery passion. Be strong. Slay your fears. Fly high. Rise up and soar. All right, guys. I will see you in the next one. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you later on. Bye-bye.